Good morning. I hope y'all are doing well today, and welcome to Mystery Monday. And today we are talking about two different men. The first one, his name is Orion Williamson. Orion Williamson disappeared in July of 1854. Now, I do not have any current pictures of him, but this is his house in Selma, Alabama. And it was a hot, sunny afternoon when Orion Williamson, his wife, and son relaxed on the porch of their farmhouse. Now, the family watched horses graze under the sunshine in the distance. It was then that Orion stood up and ventured towards the grassy field to tell his farm worker to move the horses into a shaded area. Now, Williamson picked up what is described as a stick lying nearby and began to play with it as he walked forward. Armour Wren and his son James were the neighbors of the Williamson family. They were passing by in a buggy when they too saw Williamson walk into the field. The Wren stopped to wave hello, and as Williamson waved back to his neighbors, he suddenly disappeared. He vanished without a trace in thin air. When rushing to the spot when Orion Williamson last stood, soon joined by Miss Williamson and her child, they scurried the area hoping to find the lost farmer. But it was simply grass and land, as if Williamson had never been there. What just occurred was impossible to explain. How could a grown man completely vanish in front of his family and in front of the neighbors? With the sudden realization and shock from what happened to her husband, Miss Williamson fainted and was taken to the local hospital. When word of the mysterious occurrence spread through town, 300 people gathered and went to the field to look for Williamson. The crowd carefully searched the entire area. Bloodhounds tracked every turn. Hours passed and darkness came. Torches were lit, and still there was no sign of the poor farmer. The next day, more citizens from communities outside of Selma came to participate in the search. Volunteers went as far as digging into the ground where Williamson disappeared, only to find bedrock. Eventually, the search parties gave up. Orion Williamson was never found, dead or alive. The next spring, investigators returned to the site and oddly saw a barren and dry patch of grass nearby where Orion last stood. When Miss Williamson learned of this, she related to them that she and her son kept hearing her husband's voice calling out for help for weeks after he disappeared. But every time they ran to that spot, they could not find him. She said she kept hearing his voice until it slowed down and gradually faded away. Whatever happened to Orion Williamson? Some investigators developed theories to explain the mystery. One hypothesized that an unstable universal ether was responsible that could disintegrate matter. Another claim proposed a magnetic field transported the missing man to another dimension. Juanita Rose Valini included the incident in her book that she wrote called Almanac of the Infamous, the Incredible, and the Ignored. She narrated two other similar events in 1880 and 1885. In 1880, the disappearance occurred in Tennessee. The farmer who vanished was David Lang. Like Williamson, Lang sat on the front porch with his wife and children, walked to a field, and was never seen again. In this case, David Lang's daughter, Sarah, wrote about the incident in great detail. And then Isaac Martin's disappearance in 1885 tells the tale of a man vanishing in a farm field in Virginia. The New York Sun posted an article about the oddity, but it was not known if there were any eyewitnesses in that situation. Now, in the book, Disappearance and the Theory Thereof, the author Dr. Maximilian Hearn purports the missing man entered a void spot of universal ether. Unfortunately, not much useful information is provided to further explain this. Another popular publication was called Among the Missing, an anecdote of missing persons from the 1800s to the present by J. Robert Nash. He cites again the conclusions of Hearn and other person, Ambrose Bierce, who investigated the Williamson case. The universal ether was theorized and proposed by Aristotle also during ancient Greek times. In those days, it was believed energy traveled through a mysterious substance that exists everywhere. This substance was known as ether. It was used to explain the principles of natural phenomena such as light and gravity. Sound and light are forms of waves that could travel by ether. In the case of Orion, this ether must have been the medium through which his wife and child heard his voice in the absence of the physical form as presented by Hearn and others. But the theory of the universal ether had weakened through modern time as science gradually developed and understood matter and energy better than before. Now, the concept of the magnetic field sucking Orion into another dimension is interesting, but is certainly something that cannot be explained by modern science. Perhaps string theory, which talks of multi-universes, might provide insight to how strange cases of physical disappearances may occur. Can a rift in the delicate balance of space and time fabric be responsible? We just don't know. But what's crazy is, ironically, Ambrose Bierce, who wrote a satire on the event, also mysteriously disappeared 50 years later from the unknown situation as well. We just don't know exactly what happened to him. I just don't know. That's something else interesting to look at. The next situation we're going to talk about is a man named Austin Mize. This is a picture of Austin Mize. This is more local. In 1918, Austin Mize left his family here in Odenville, Alabama, before his 18th birthday to become a sailor aboard the USS Cyclops. And here's a picture of the ship. It set sail from Rio de Janeiro and headed into the Bermuda Triangle 3 days after he celebrated his milestone birthday on February the 13th, 1918. Well, within a month, Mize would vanish along with 305 other crew members and passengers aboard. The Cyclops disappeared sometime in March on its way to Maryland. No bodies or traces of the ship were ever found. The cause of its sinking is still listed as unknown. Mize's family placed a memorial marker in Liberty Presbyterian Cemetery in Odenville with the description that said, Foreman Austin Mize, February 13th, 1900, lost on the USS Cyclops, March 1918. Gone but not forgotten, son. And the USS Cyclops, to give you a little bit more information about that, this picture was taken in New York, in the Navy Yard. It was anchored at the Hudson River, everybody believes. This picture was October 3rd, 1911. They said that 95 years after the loss of the USS Cyclops and 309 souls, and it's also listed on the History Naval Information, in the North Atlantic, March 1918. The precise mechanism of the sinking and the location of the wreck remain unknown. This incident during World War I is the largest loss of life in the history of the United States Navy of the U.S. built steel-hulled warship, where there simply is no direct evidence of why it happened, when it happened, or exactly how it happened. As we near the centennial of the loss of the Cyclops, it is appropriate to remember the ship, the officers and crew, and to review their valuable contributions. Moreover, the long accepted opinions as of the contributing causes of the loss of the Cyclops may be helpful to understand of the risks faced by the commercial bulk carriers, which have been lost at an alarming rate for many years. Now, in April of 1917, the U.S. declared war on Germany and other Central Powers. The U.S. Navy was in transition from coal-burning warships to ships powered by oil. This would have a direct impact on the capital ships sent to the United Kingdom to reinforce the Royal Navy's battleships. Ultimately, Navy oil reserves would present major issues throughout the 1920s. The Teapot Dome scandal concerned illegal leases of naval oil reserves, and the dissolution of the Ottoman Empire. And the colonial establishments in the Middle East were greatly influenced by the European natives' demand for oil for their merchant ships and warships. And we just, like I said, the Cyclops was the only ship of her class, was engaged in transportation of bulk cargo to and from the United States to Brazil in the early 1918. She was assigned the Naval Overseas Transportation Service, departing Norfolk the day before with 9.960 tons of coal for English ships in the South Atlantic. And she arrived at Rio de Janeiro on January the 28th, 1918, and she departed there on February 15th, carrying a load of 10,800 long tons of manganese ore. And on February the 20th, Cyclops entered Bahia, Bahia, and later dated Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, April the 27th, 1918, concerning the USS Cyclops, on which the Consul General Gottschalk was a passenger. 2 days later, on February the 28th, 1918, she departed for Baltimore, Maryland, with no stop scheduled. Rather than proceeding directly to Baltimore as scheduled, Cyclops deviated to Barbados, arriving on March the 3rd, 1918, at the port. She was about 1,800 nautical miles from destination. Now, Cyclops departed from there for Baltimore on March the 4th, but was never seen again. A rumored sighting March the 9th off Virginia by the molasses tanker Amalaco was denied by that ship's master. It was improbable that Cyclops was off Virginia on the date because she was not due at Baltimore until March 13th, and her speed of advance was reduced to about 240 nautical miles per day because of the unseaworthy engine. The weather off the Virginia Capes on the following day, March 10th, 1918, reported was very violent. In any event, the Cyclops failed to arrive at Baltimore, and no wreckage has ever been seen or found. It's absent direct proof. It appears most likely that a synergy of events caused the loss of the Cyclops. The ship was operating on a single shaft because of the cracked cylinder. This reduced her speed and maneuverability and left the Cyclops at a risk of greater damage. And she suffered a further engineering casualty. She was loaded deeply and beyond her marks of what she needed to carry. This cargo was new to the ship, and it was not clear that the officer's crew or anybody, properly loaded it or stowed it. It could have been, it said that there could have been reports that she previously suffered hull damage due to the coal fire and the hull failures. They just don't know, what happened or if it lost the remaining engine or what. So, they just don't know. So, found those both stories very interesting. If you'd like to look up more information, you can go to NavyHistory.org, and it'll tell you about the unanswered loss of the Cyclops. You could also check out other sites. Alabama.com has done information on the, of it vanishing in the Bermuda Triangle. You can also find some information on the farmer, Orion Williamson. Alabama.com did an article on that Selma farmer as well. So those are two cases that are very, very interesting. Y'all check them out. Hope y'all have a wonderful day, and I will see all of you seniors hopefully soon. Have a blessed day.